It is imperative that corporations not be allowed to give money to politicians or to the political system in any way, shape, or form. That is the most important rule and law that we need in this country. Corporations are not evil. Some people make that mistake. They are not immoral, they're amoral. They literally have no morals. They're not human beings. They are legal fictions. They're fictions we created for a good reason. And I think that largely they are necessary. But their mandate is make every single nickel that you can and crush anything in your path to get there. So now if you have these amoral machines and they have a tremendous amount of money and power, you got to make sure you do some regulation so that they do not buy our government. Because if you're a logical, amoral machine, what is the first thing you would do? Well, if I can capture the government, I will have an enormous advantage over my competitor. So let me go buy the senators and congressmen. And that is exactly what they have done. Now, in the old days, we used to have a check on that. Now we no longer have a check. And because of Supreme Court decisions, we've declared that comically that corporations are people, they have First Amendment rights, and they can buy any politician they like. If you ask Democrats or Republicans, the actual voters, and say, hey, do you think our politicians are corrupted by money? They will say overwhelmingly, hell yes. Where is the biggest source of that money? Corporations. The biggest applause line of the Democratic National Convention was when Elizabeth Warren said corporations are not people, and that place exploded. And you know, if you ask Republicans, their opinion is not that different. Now, the law is not that way at this point. How do you fix it? You do a constitutional amendment. So constitutional amendments, of course, are hard, and hence people think they're undoable, except for the fact that we've done them 27 times. So obviously, they are doable, and in fact, sometimes they get done as quickly as 18 months if there is enough momentum behind one. And I can't imagine more momentum than 86% of the American people agreeing to the same thing. In this polarized political system, where you can't get Democrats or Republicans to agree on anything, the one thing they all agree on is we got to get the influence of money out of politics, otherwise our system is screwed. So in some ways, it is the most doable thing you can do. We started up this super PAC called Wolf PAC. The reason we named it that, it's pretty aggressive, is because we wanted to let them know we're done running. You know, they're not coming for us, we're coming for them. So this is a very aggressive super PAC to push for this constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. This would be the 28th Amendment. That's what Wolf PAC's in favor of, and it has two components. One is that corporations are not human beings, and they do not have the rights of human beings, hence they cannot donate to politicians. Big donors obviously make a big difference, whether they're the Koch brothers, Adelson, or Soros, right? But the real unlimited money comes from corporations. And by the way, corporations are not beholden to America at all. I mean, every once in a while we call them American corporations, but what does that mean? Their shareholders can be from Dubai, they could be from China, their executives can be from France, from anywhere. So these are not American corporations. They have no responsibilities to the American people or the taxpayer. So we got to make sure that those multinational corporations cannot purchase our politicians. Number two, we will do public financing of all elections so that our politicians serve us rather than their donors. Because who do you work for? You work for the guy who signs your checks, right? If the donors are signing their checks, the politicians are going to work for them, and everybody knows it. So if we sign their checks, we at least have a chance at getting the politicians to actually be our literal representatives. Now, one other thing that's important about Wolf PAC is that, unfortunately, I don't think you can get a constitutional amendment through this deeply corrupt Congress in Washington. The virus has taken over the body politic in Washington. So I think the only reasonable way to get an amendment is the second route, which of course is hard, but it is doable, which is a constitutional convention. And the way you get a constitutional convention is if you can get 2/3 of the states to call for one. So we have this army of volunteers ready to go. And what we're going to do is go state by state, and we're going to figure out who's on our side, who's against us, what kind of carrots and sticks that we need in order to prod those legislatures to call for a constitutional convention. We're going to get the 2/3 of the states, and we are already mobilized, and we're coming.